Good Sunday morning and Happy New Year. I'm Paul Listing. Coming up today on WGN-TV Political Report. With more migrants arriving in and around Chicago every day, local leaders say Washington should step up to help. But can Washington break its gridlock on a decades-old issue? Plus, will Illinois join the list of states barring former President Donald Trump from the 2024 ballot, the latest in the legal battle that's forming here? And later, the changing landscape of work in America. We're talking to the author of a new book about labor's everyday impact from perception to politics. Our first story this morning, the ongoing migrant crisis in Chicago only intensifying in the new year. The total number of new arrivals has climbed to nearly 30,000, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott now sending buses to nearby suburbs before they're diverted back to the city. Well, all of this as city and state resources continue to be depleted by the constant arrivals. Mayor Brandon Johnson continues to lobby Washington for financial aid, but his requests remain mostly stalled as lawmakers debate how to fix the problem that begins at the border and what to do about those already here. And joining me now is Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia. Congressman, good morning to you and thanks for joining me.
Good morning. Great to join you, Paul.
So we're into the new year and the migrant numbers continue to grow. We've got like nearing 30,000 here in the Chicago area. Texas Governor Abbott now has figured out he needs to send buses to surrounding suburbs. He's going to use charter planes. And towns are trying to crack down on these arrivals by passing different ordinances. But doesn't that just mean Abbott will find other places in Illinois to send the migrants?
Well, it's clear that Governor Abbott has been trafficking migrants for the past year and a half, and he's escalated in the past few weeks by chartering flights and buses to municipalities across Chicagoland. In Cook and DuPage and Will County, over 81 buses have arrived in the past 2 weeks alone, including in my district in places like Elmhurst and Hinsdale. To better anticipate the arrival and coordination efforts across jurisdictions and agencies, mayors are talking. There's cooperation with the city of Chicago, and all of them want at least a minimum 5-day notice so that they can help move folks along in an orderly way. I applaud the efforts of all municipalities and state agencies that are working for a welcoming transition. But yes, I think we can expect the governor of Texas to continue in human trafficking, endangering the lives of these folks that are being sent up here because they're not ready for Chicago weather. They refuse to provide notice so that people can be welcomed and helped along as they try to reunite with families and of course pursue their applications for political asylum.
Yeah. Well, one thing, of course, aside from the issue of the numbers coming in, the Abbott administration has really not been in communication sort of to try and work with the cities like Chicago, New York to say, let's coordinate all of this, which probably would help in handling this. One question, have you reached out? Have you talked to Governor Abbott or his administration at all?
I have not personally. I know that there have been efforts by the administration to do that, by the Secretary, the Department of Homeland Security, who I've been meeting with on a regular basis, as have members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and the Progressive Caucus as well. But it's pretty clear that the aim of Governor Abbott is to cause chaos in cities like Chicago, without a doubt, in anticipation of the Democratic National Convention, which is going to be held in Chicago this year. And of course, at the same time, the last couple of days, we've seen Republicans in the House who are pushing extreme policies as they converged on one of the border crossings to make their political points. I think all of these things are just bad for both migrants and for communities. And of course, the Republicans continue to insist on adoption of H.R. 2, one of the most extreme anti-immigration and anti-immigrant laws that would deport people who have been living in the country, that destroys the asylum system, that resumes construction of the all, and that even would bring back a family detention. They continue to vilify immigrants and, of course, double down on decades-old policy that don't work and that don't address the humanitarian challenge because they think that all of this is politically beneficial.
So look, there's the issue of handling those who have crossed the border, are coming into our country. And we've been seeing videos of the steady stream of migrants who continue to cross that border in Texas. And as you've been kind of alluding to it, your Republican colleagues, actually the other day, Speaker Johnson and many others went to the border. Their goal is to say it's not about how we're handling the ones coming in. That's part of it. It's about stopping the flood of people coming in. A deal doesn't seem to be reachable when that's the distinction. It seems that Democrats are saying we have to be have a lot of humanitarian efforts here to bring them in, and Republicans are going, wait a minute, they shouldn't be here in the first place. Is there a compromise?
We'll see. I spoke with Senator Durbin earlier, a couple of days ago, and he informed me that he is in the mix in the Senate as conversations on a defense bill for Ukraine, for other military matters, seeks to advance in the Senate. He is trying to, of course, keep some of the worst aspects of such a proposal, like the proposal I mentioned just a bit ago, that would do all of this damage to the asylum system, that would seek to simply militarize the border. But it's clear that Democrats do support some measures as it relates to securing the border and addressing some of the delays. It almost takes 6 years for an asylum application to be processed at this point. So we support things like hiring more officers that could preside over asylum hearings, more judges that could do the same, providing legal assistance so that that waiting deadline can be reduced significantly. But in addition to that, we've got to address the root causes of what is driving the desperation that is making people come here. This is a new phenomenon, but it's happening worldwide, and it's certainly at our back door in terms of the hemispheric challenge that we are experiencing. We did not act understanding all of the ravages of the pandemic on countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, in places like Venezuela and Colombia and Haiti, including Cuba. And that's where a part of the big surge in border migrants or migrants showing up at the border are coming from. We should have known that there would be consequences. And again, it's a continuation of a foreign policy that isn't forward-looking. Right. Migrations like this can be orderly managed. And I think that is the conversation that is taking place between Secretary Blinken and Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. And that's the type of collaboration that we need at the international level with multilateral cooperation and collaboration, and certainly more investment as it relates to our foreign assistance in our own hemisphere. We haven't done that. And remember that in our hemisphere, there are over 750 million inhabitants. Unless we keep a close eye on our backyard, we'll continue to address these types of crises.
Well, and Congressman, again, the gripe you hear from a lot of Republicans is it's one thing to do a better job about the people who are here and speed it up. But the question is, the numbers are significant. Just before the holidays, you criticized the White House for considering restrictions that they were going to put on asylum seekers, not including a pathway to citizenship. That kind of deal is probably dead in the House on arrival. But that being said, have you had any discussions with the White House about that?
Well, for one, it's our lack of action on immigration reform. It's been 36 years since we passed the last bill that helped legalize about 3 million people nationally. Since then, our immigration system has just gotten even worse and more broken than ever. Both Republicans and Democrats agree on that. We're in conversations with the White House on all sorts of issues and ideas for how to grapple with the current crisis, but also for the need for immigration reform. Remember that we have passed legislation in the House in the last two previous Congresses that could have passed if Republicans would have supported them in the Senate. That's where the obstacle has been. Unless we make progress in beginning to address all of the issues facing our broken immigration system, we'll continue to be dealing with the symptoms of the problem. Remember that part of the message we've sent to migrants all over Latin America and people who would want to come here is that the only way to come here is by coming to the border, because we can't act, we can't enact policy, and we don't have immigration reform. That's part of the reason what is motivating people to show up at the border. They think that's the only way to immigrate to America.
Congressman, I have 30 seconds left. Two very quick lightning round questions. Number one, since Republicans are tying border security funding to Ukraine and Israel, is there a deal, or are Ukraine and Israel at risk? Briefly.
I think the funding for Ukraine, Israel, and the border remain in limbo at this time. We're going to watch to see what happens in the next day or two as the House reconvenes for the new year on Tuesday, but there's no certainty that funding is going to happen this coming week. We'll see how negotiations are drawn out. Republicans are insisting on hardline, draconian immigration changes at the border. And that is a big problem, even though the president has signaled that he's willing to compromise on things that I strongly disagree with him on, that would not solve the issues that we're facing.
All right, Congressman, let me try and get a yes or no out of you on this one, which is, will the government shut down on January 19th, or will a deal be reached?
I hope not. I hope Republicans come to their sense once again. We have an agreement that was reached between President Biden and Leader McCarthy. That should be honored. I know that conversations will take place. I'm afraid it's going to come down to the 11th hour.
All right. Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia, thank you for your time today, sir. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good luck as you return to Washington. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take our first break. Coming up next on WGN-TV Political Report.
So much of this case relies on facts that Donald Trump himself does not dispute and often brags about.
A group of voters in Illinois want to keep Donald Trump off the ballot here this March. What's next in the legal battle?